There are seasons in life when heaven feels quiet. You pray, you cry, you search for a sign, but nothing happens. The silence of God can be one of the hardest tests of faith, because in the silence, doubts whisper louder. You start wondering if God still hears you, if he still cares. You look around and see others being blessed, doors opening for them, miracles unfolding in their lives. And you ask yourself, Lord, what about me? But what if his silence isn't a sign of his absence? What if it's proof that he's working in ways you cannot see? The truth is, God's silence is never empty. Every time heaven seems quiet, something is moving beneath the surface. Something powerful, something necessary, something divine. When God is silent, he's not ignoring you. He's preparing you. There's a kind of growth that can only happen in silence. When the noise fades, your heart starts to listen in new ways. The distractions disappear, and what's left is you and God. No filters, no performances, just raw faith. Silence refines. Silence builds endurance. Silence forces you to confront what you truly believe. Maybe you're in a season where everything feels delayed. Your prayers haven't been answered, your plans aren't working, your heart feels heavy with waiting. But remember this, waiting time is not wasted time. God doesn't delay out of neglect. He delays out of design. He knows that certain blessings require maturity to handle. He knows that a miracle given too early can become a burden instead of a blessing. So while you wait, he works. While you question, he aligns. While you wonder if he's forgotten you, he's setting everything in place. Think about Joseph, a young man full of dreams, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and forgotten in a prison cell. For years, heaven seemed silent, but every silent year was a step toward purpose. God wasn't punishing Joseph, he was preparing him. When the silence broke, Joseph stood before Pharaoh, not as a forgotten prisoner, but as a man of wisdom, faith, and humility, ready for the calling that had been shaping him all along. That's how God works. He often hides his greatest work in silence, just like a seed buried in the ground. Unseen, unmoving. It looks dead, but life is forming inside. The soil of silence is where roots grow deep, and when the right season comes, that seed breaks through with strength it could only gain underground. So if it feels like nothing is happening, don't lose heart. Something is happening. It's just happening where you can't see it yet. Silence teaches you to trust God's heart even when you can't trace his hand. Because true faith doesn't depend on visible signs. It depends on invisible confidence. Faith says, even if I don't hear him, I know he's here. Faith says, even if I don't see movement, I trust his plan. Sometimes God's silence is his mercy. If he showed you everything he's protecting you from, your heart wouldn't be able to handle it. If he revealed every detail of his plan, you might try to control it instead of surrendering to it. So he stays silent, not to confuse you, but to protect you. His silence is not rejection, it's direction. He's steering you towards something better, even when it feels like you're standing still. There's a story in the Bible where Jesus heard that his friend Lazarus was sick. Everyone expected him to go immediately, but he didn't. He waited 2 days. And in that waiting, Lazarus died. To everyone watching, it looked like Jesus was too late. But he wasn't late. He was setting the stage for something greater. When he arrived, he didn't just heal Lazarus, he raised him from the dead. That's what happens when God seems silent. He's not denying your request, he's upgrading it. You asked for healing, he's preparing resurrection. You asked for an open door, he's building a new path. You asked for peace, he's creating transformation. So don't let the silence convince you that he's not working. The silence means the miracle is being prepared. There's a sacred kind of faith that's born only in stillness. When every prayer feels unanswered, every dream feels delayed, and every door seems closed, that's when faith becomes real. Faith that clings to God, not because of what he gives, but because of who he is. When God is silent, it doesn't mean you've lost his favor. It often means you're standing closer to your breakthrough than you realize, because the enemy attacks hardest right before the blessing arrives. The darkness always deepens before the dawn. The silence always stretches before the sound of victory. And maybe right now, heaven's quiet because your spirit is being trained to listen differently. God might not be saying no, he might be saying not yet. He's shaping your patience, refining your faith, teaching you to depend on him alone. We often pray for miracles, but rarely for the strength to wait for them. Yet that's where miracles are born, in the quiet spaces between asking and receiving. When you keep believing even when there's no visible reason to. When you worship through tears. When you pray with trembling hands. When you say, God, I don't understand, but I trust you. That kind of faith moves heaven, because it's not built on sight, it's built on surrender. Maybe you feel abandoned right now, like your prayers hit the ceiling and fall back down, like you're doing everything right, yet nothing changes. But God sees you, every whispered prayer, every sleepless night, every tear. He's counted them all, and he's working through them in ways that will one day leave you speechless. One day you'll look back on this season and realize that the silence had purpose. You'll see that the waiting shaped your heart, that the loneliness made you lean on him more deeply, that the unanswered prayers became the foundation for stronger faith. You'll thank him for not giving you what you wanted, because you'll see how he gave you what you needed instead. If you're in a silent season, don't rush out of it. There's treasure in the quiet. There's revelation in the waiting. There's power in the pause. This is where trust is forged. Not when everything makes sense, but when you choose to believe that God is still good, even in the unknown. Remember Elijah? He looked for God in the wind, in the earthquake, and in the fire. But God wasn't in any of those. Then came a gentle whisper. That's where Elijah found him. God often speaks the loudest in the quietest ways, not through the thunder, but through the still small voice inside your heart that says, "Peace, be still. I'm here, so don't despise the silence. It's not the end of your story. It's the middle of your miracle." God hasn't stopped working. He's simply preparing the perfect time to reveal what he's been building for you. You may not understand the delay right now, but one day you'll stand on the other side of this valley and you'll see why it had to happen this way. You'll realize that God was never late. He was aligning everything perfectly for his glory and your good. He was preparing your heart to handle what you prayed for. He was removing what could have destroyed you. He was teaching you to depend on him, not the outcome. Sometimes God's silence is his way of rewriting your story into something greater than you imagined. He knows what you don't. He sees what you can't. And he's working all things together, even the silent parts, for your good. So if you're in that place right now, waiting, wondering, hurting, hold on a little longer. Keep praying, even when it feels pointless. Keep believing, even when the silence feels endless. Keep walking, even when you can't see the path. Because faith isn't proven in the noise. It's proven in the quiet. When nothing moves and yet you still choose to believe. The same God who was with you in the last storm is with you in this silence. He hasn't changed. He hasn't left. He's working behind the curtain, setting the stage for your breakthrough. Your story isn't over. It's unfolding. And the silence you feel right now, it's just the sound of God turning the page. One day soon, the silence will break. The prayer you whispered in the dark will be answered in the light. The pain that once crushed you will become your testimony. The tears that fell in secret will water the seeds of your miracle. You'll stand where you are now and say, God was with me the whole time. Until that day, wait with faith. Trust his timing, and remember, when God is silent, he's not still. He's working perfectly, powerfully, and personally for you, because his silence is never the end. It's the beginning of something extraordinary.